Hello, in this video we're going to talk about the best Season 1 Selector ticket, identities, and E.G.Os to get. You can get this ticket as a new player by completing the new player activities, which I believe is just a login campaign. And without any further ado, let's get right into it. So here's the roadmap for today's discussion. We're going to go over the best identity and the best E.G.O, which are widely agreed to be the one who shall grip Sinclair and Fluid Sac Faust. However, we're also going to discuss some other options for identities and some other strong E.G.O if neither of these interest you or you just want some more options. All right, let's get into it. So let's talk about the one who shall grip Sinclair, who's also referred to as N-Corp Sinclair or just N-Clair. So what makes him good? A lot of people will recommend him, but they won't really talk about why he's good. So let's look at three main points. Now I should say he's a widely good unit, so these 3 points aren't the only reason why he's good, but they're just what I wanted to call attention to. First of all, N-Corp Sinclair is a negative sanity unit. This means he does not rely on clashes or sanity healing to improve his coin rolls, although you need to be careful he doesn't reach negative 45 sanity and corrode. This is because each one of his skills reduce his sanity, which is what he wants. He wants to have lower sanity because he's a negative sanity unit. Rolling heads actually hurts him. He wants to roll tails. And this means that you don't have to like, oh, I got unlucky and lost a clash. I'm not getting sanity this turn. No, he'll reduce his own sanity. You just need to make sure it doesn't hit negative 45, which is easier to do than building up a unit to 45 sanity. Secondly, he has an absolutely baller skill 3 called Self-Destructive Purge, which rolls a natural 30. Like, this is absurd. It has no conditional. It just rolls a 30 because it can. And it has 3 coins, which means he can roll 30 potentially 3 times. I mean, the damage output is insane. Third, he performs better in clashes than the algorithm realizes. Let's give an example. You clash him up with someone who rolls, I don't know, let's say a 16. Well, maybe your Sinclair, it'll say, is struggling because it's expecting him to roll heads a couple times and it thinks he's going to end up with a coin value of like 0. But as negative sanity skills lose coins as you fail on a clash, that actually helps you because again, you don't want to be rolling heads, you want to be rolling tails. And so by removing coins, the amount of times you can roll heads is reduced. So I gave the example of Self-Destructive Purge, which rolls a natural 30. This means when it only has 1 coin left, the lowest it can roll is an 18. That's insane. A minimum skill roll of 18. I mean, yeah, so anyway. The algorithm does not factor in this whole losing coin thing. So he's actually going to do better in clashes than the computer will tell you. So there you go. That's N-Corp Sinclair in 2.5 minutes. Just a very strong unit, high damage, doesn't need to clash, and just can, but he can win clashes. Sorry, I stuttered a bit of my words there. Anyway, just a very all-around strong unit. All right, now let's talk about the best E.G.O, Fluid Sac Faust. So what makes this widely agreed not just to be the best Selector ticket E.G.O, but the best E.G.O in the entirety of Limbus Company? Well, it's because she provides HP and SP healing for all allies, including herself. This is the only E.G.O in the game that does both and includes herself, I believe. It heals HP, SP, the whole team, and herself. I don't think there's any other E.G.O in the game that can do that. If someone knows, they can leave a comment, but I don't believe so. Secondly, it has 5 attack weight, which means it's also just good damage output because it can hit 5 enemy units at the same time. And thirdly, its support passive applies 2 protection. There's a little typo there. I forgot to say 2 in front of protection. But her support passive applies 2 protection even to herself. To the lowest health, I should say. There's actually a second typo. But it applies 2 protection even to herself if she's the lowest health. Or if another ally's lowest health, it'll apply 2 protection to them. Protection, each stack of protection is 10% less damage. So 2 protections, 20% less damage. So not only is she healing, but she's also protecting people who are on low HP. There's really just, I don't even need to spend more than 2 minutes talking about Fluid Sac Faust. What makes it good is extremely simple, but just because it's simple doesn't mean it's not nearly broken. This will probably be the best healing E.G.O in the game forever. Okay. Now, maybe you still are looking for more options, you want to shop around, you want to know what else there is. So here I have on the slideshow the names of all of the other 3-star identities that you can use the ticket to get. You can get the one who grips Faust, you can get Tintang Hung Lu, you can get Chef Ryoshu, you can get G Corp Gregor, and N Corp Merceau. So out of these, the one who grips Faust, Tintang Hung Lu, and Chef Ryoshu are all three of those are very good. They've held up well today. Some of them have fallen off a little bit, but they're still strong, and we'll talk about why. However, you want to avoid G Corp Gregor and N Corp Merceau. You should really not spend your ticket on these. These identities have their defenders, right? People like them, and they have their uses. You can make them work, but they're niche, or they've been power crept, or they just generally have problems with them. I'm not going to be discussing them, but I just wanted to throw that out there, that those two, G Corp Gregor and N Corp Merceau, you generally want to avoid using your ticket on. Okay, but let's talk about those other three options. So first, the one who grips Faust needs a slide all to herself, because why she's good is not super straightforward. First of all, what makes her still widely used today is her passive ability, actually, not her actual abilities themselves. Her passive ability provides 15 15 SP to the two allies with the lowest sanity when there's 4 lust resonance. Now this is really good. I mean, that's 30 sanity healing just for doing your normal gameplay of using skills. And that's why people still use her today. And she has a similar version of that when she's on the bench as well, where she can give sanity healing on lust resonance. Secondly, she inflicts nails with all of her skills, and nails is a unique status effect that increases bleed, so she has use on a bleed team. She has okay clash numbers. She rolls a 10, 16, 12, which has fallen off today, but I mean, it still works, especially if you're getting through just the first 5 cantos of the game. And then also she has synergy with N-Corp units if you do decide to run an N-Corp team. But it's really that strong sanity healing passive which still makes her good. So yeah, one who grips Faust is around and still relevant and can be a decent option. There's also Tintang Hung Lu and Chef Ryoshu, and these units are both good for the same reasons. They have really high slash and pierce damage output. Like seriously, for units that have been in the game for almost 2 years now, they still do a crazy amount of damage. They also, both of them have some synergy with bleed teams. They inflict a little bit of bleed, or they get better when enemies have bleed. And thirdly, their clash numbers have held up well. Tintang Honglu's actually, his clash numbers are insane. He unconditionally, so he doesn't need any workup to do this, just rolls a 13, 18, 30, which is kind of absurd actually. There's very few identities in the game that do that. Chef Ryoshu is much more normal. She rolls a very passable 10, 18, 15, which is pretty legit. But just because she rolls lower, don't underestimate Chef Ryoshu's damage. She has some stuff baked in her skills that just make her do flat damage, but still holds up well today. So yeah, so if you're looking just for high damage units that'll help you kill stuff really fast, but you're not interested in N-Corp Sinclair, take a look at these two units. Tintang Hung Lu, Chef Ryoshu, both of them have held up. Alright, now let's talk about some other strong E.G.O, transitioning a bit. So there's 3 primary options other than Fluid Sac that you could use your ticket on. You could get Rhymeshank Rodion, Ebony Stem Otis, or 4th Match Flame Ryoshu. There's actually quite a few more E.G.Os, and some of them aren't necessarily bad, and some of them are pretty good, but these are the 3 I would say that are still pretty widely used today. So let's talk about them. So first of all, Rhymeshank. Rhymeshank is the sinking apocalypse. And what makes it so famous, this E.G.O used to be considered to be like probably the second best E.G.O in the game for a long time, is the fact that it inflicts 5 sinking potency and 5 sinking count. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how potency versus count works, I don't have time in this video to explain it all, but you need potency and count for units that rely on status effects to ramp up, and she just ramps it up instantly. 5 count inflicted is a lot. Secondly, 3 attack weight means she can do it to 3 different enemies, which is no joke. I mean, she can apply a ton of sinking to 3 people at once, all while the E.G.O is rolling a 30, which is very respectable for an E.G.O, considering it's only in the 10th slot, which means it only costs 20 sanity to use. So it's a cheap E.G.O, only costs 20 sanity, it rolls high, it can hit multiple enemies, and it ramps up sinking super fast. So if you want to run a sinking team, this is a very legitimate E.G.O to use your ticket on instead of Fluid Sac. Alright, Ebony Stem Otis and 4th Match Flame Ryoshu, what makes them good? They're status effect E.G.Os. They're strong for Rupture and Burn respectively. Ebony Stem is a Rupture E.G.O, 4th Match Flame is a Burn E.G.O. Ebony Stem also has the benefit of having high attack weight, meaning Otis can hit a bunch of enemies at once, which can be pretty nice. And 4th Match Flame has the perk of having very high coin power. It can actually roll a whopping 37, which is still pretty, I mean, just not a lot of stuff that can roll higher than a 37. So 4th Match Flame can clash very well. So yeah, both these E.G.Os, I wouldn't really recommend using your selector ticket on them, but they're options, and if you're set on running a Rupture team or set on running a Burn team, both of these are good options to use that ticket on. Alright, thank you for watching. Just as a quick reminder, do not select a OO identity, please only select a 3-star. OOs only cost 150 shards, while a 3-star costs 400 shards, so you're basically throwing away 250 free shards if you select an OO identity, and there's really no reason to do that. Still, having said all this, choose an identity or an E.G.O that you like. I mean, there's a lot of cool options in Limbus Company, so don't feel like you're forced to be meta or you won't progress. Trust me, you will still progress through the game just fine without any of the meta units. You will still be able to clear all the story, you'll still be able to do the endgame content, and you do not need the meta teams to win. I hope this video was helpful, and gallop on, manager, and I'll see you around. Good luck out there.